His power was in his words. His weapon was nonviolence. His goal was independence from the British Empire.
His course is to believe in the moral government of the world, and therefore in the supremacy of the moral law.
On this coast, Gandhi and his followers wanted to break the monopoly of salt, the symbol of colonial suppression.
All of us had to sign that we wouldn't resort to violence. Our resistance was peaceful, even at the expense of our lives. What mattered most was the freedom of our country.
The legendary Salt March. More than 90,000 people followed Gandhi. The British took it as a provocation.
He was obviously a clever lawyer. I think he'd been born in South Africa, who then went back to India. And a lot of us respected the views they had because they were non-violent views. Seems funny to say, for soldiers, but we did. We respected people who were non-violent because the average soldier doesn't like violence. You might be paid to do it, but you don't like it.
Swimming in the sea seems to be a marginal story, but through this action, Gandhi questioned the prestige of the empire. He broke the colonial law allegorically, without violence.
We cheered when Gandhi symbolically took up a handful of salt to break the hated salt tax. Gandhi said, "All of us have to be ready to give our lives. The British must go away." With these two movements, Gandhi brought us closer to independence.
Gandhi was taken to prison, but he called upon his compatriots not to give up the fight. Millions listened to him. The colonists answered with violence.
When we ruled India, there were very few problems. We kept order. It never entered our heads that we were going to leave India at that particular time.
June 1930, on the way to the Dashana salt mine, Indian soldiers obeyed British order and beat down their compatriots. Gandhi's followers took hits lying down. There were injured and there were even dead among them.
We were hit and tortured by the English several times, but we grinned and bore it. Without saying a word or complaining, we bore the hits. This was Gandhi's philosophy.
He who collects salt is captured. More than 60,000 people were arrested. This kind of resistance could not be broken by blows.
We were trained as soldiers. We were trained to fight a war, and our training was very basic in terms of how to deal with people in what was meant to be a non-violent situation.
Finally, the British concede. Gandhi and a lot of his followers were let out of prison. The government changed their strategy. The former enemy became a negotiation partner. Gandhi was invited to London to attend a conference on India's future, but the empire was not willing to give up its dominant role. The negotiations were unsuccessful.
He was prepared for the failure also. So that is why when the second round table conference, when he came without any fruits, and means the success, he was not disheartened. He said, okay, no, still God wants us to be more ready.
On the surface, Gandhi withdrew from politics. He lived a simple life. This was also a way of resistance. He asked all Indians to wear clothes of handmade fabrics. All around the country, fires were burning. People burnt their clothes made in England. 1939, Hitler is getting ready. His war against England seemed to favor India's ambitions for independence. Gandhi was surprised by the behavior of his comrades. A naive appeal is born. Dear friend, you are the only one who can interfere in a war in which people can become barbarians.
He considered Hitler as his friend in a sense that to him the whole humanity was his friend and like one family. So with a faith that maybe his letter to Hitler will change his ideology.
While Hitler assaulted England, Gandhi stood by the colonial empire, which was in a tight situation when the mother country became a war scene. And then they won the war and saved the kingdom, but the empire had lost its old power. In India, the crown could not maintain its respect. There were revolutions all around the country against the British regime.
Younger people could understand there was change taking place. And of course, you could understand why. Some of the older people I can understand who'd lived all their lives out there, who were thinking they would spend the rest of their lives in India, it was more difficult for them to accept those sort of political ideals.
In August of 1947, Great Britain gave up its colonies. Finally, India became independent. But appearances could be deceptive. Thousands of people died in the Civil War, which divided the subcontinent, the War of Pakistan, the Muslim state, and India, the Hindu country.
He believed that it is something where I have failed, that I could not convince my own people to treat Hindus and Muslims alike. So he took the whole blame.
Gandhi had to look at how many millions were running to the country of their own religion, scared of persecution. Endless queues of starving people trudged along the road, and desperation increased day by day. Gandhi protested once again and said that he was willing to go on a hunger strike even until the end of his life if people didn't stop killing each other. However, a lot of people thought that he was the reason for the division.
If at all you want to call him father, you can very well call him father of vivisection, father of Pakistan, on the Hindu land.
Gandhi can stop the killing, but he cannot undo the division of the two countries. Fanatical Hindus were trying to kill him. He refused any protection.
With the pistol in hand, he said, Namaste, for whatever good acts you have done. Of course, that was not uttered. And bullets for the treachery you have committed on the nation.
Gandhi liberated his people without violence, but his fate was to die by violence. But his message is an indestructible heritage.